All right, we are back again. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Design Master. My name is Eric Wright. I'm at Disco Posse, as you may know from Twitter and a few other things in the community. And I'm part of the team here today at Virtual Design Master, the Virtual Design Master Studios. And we've got a very exciting episode today because we're going to talk about our second challenge. As we saw the progression from moving the first entrants who came in and they gave some great challenges to talk about a traditional data center design, we decided to mix things up a bit. As we head into the second challenge, we took that same set of requirements, moved it over, and asked them to move into a cloud format. What's good about that, of course, in the traditional virtual design master style, it gives you an opportunity to stretch your wings a bit and really get a sense of thinking outside of the box, which in this case meant thinking inside the clouds. Of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about all the folks that are helping to support us. So obviously a big thank you to everybody. We have, of course, our grand prize provider this year is Josh Odgers. Josh works at Nutanix, and he is also NPX001 as well as a PX. So Josh was a great supporter as a judge in Season 2, and then he's been kind enough to provide a prize heading into Season 3. As well as Renee Vandenbedden. Renee brought us as part of the second place challenge, or prize, which is a $500 cash prize to the second place winner. And we've got some other prizes that are going to spread throughout the different top placements. And that gives me a good opportunity to introduce some folks. As you may know, we've got Angelo. Angelo, say hello.
Hi, folks. Hi, everyone. Good to be back.
And of course, the master of the designs and the challenges, Melissa, is here today. As always, Melissa, how do things look, and how evil does one feel today?
Things are looking pretty good. I didn't have as many complaints this challenge, so it kind of left me without many curveballs to throw, but that might have been their strategy. And one being, I'm feeling really nice, and 10 being my head's spinning around. I'm probably feeling at about 11 today. So we'll see how that works out for our contestants.
So hold on to your hats, everybody. And we have Byron Schaller. Byron, welcome back again this week. And of course, from Season 2, you were a participant and a competitor there. So you've had a chance to sit on the judges panel here for a couple of episodes. How does it feel to be the one marking the papers instead of carving off hours and hours of your time to create one?
Oh, thanks, Eric. It's a lot easier, that's for sure. It's also really fun to see everyone's design, see the stuff they come up with. When you're doing it on your own, you're kind of like in your own headspace, and you can really see what other folks are thinking here and really get a good idea of what the community at large is feeling about these topics, which has been a lot of fun.
And we have an extra special guest today, from Virtual Design Master Season 2. We have our very own Timothy Patterson. So Timothy, because we saw a great opportunity as this is a cloud challenge, this was really exciting. You brought us something interesting in Season 2, which you presented an AWS design early on, and that really kind of opened the eyes of the judges and really piqued the interest of folks, and we were very pleased with that. So welcome back. If you want to reintroduce yourself and also talk about your prize contribution as well, that would be great.
Sure. So thanks, Eric, for the introduction. It's good to be back in the community. Yeah, so it's definitely a lot different sitting on this side of the panel. It's great to see the designs that everyone comes up with. Everyone has a unique take on things, so it's really neat to see. For this season, I've also contributed back a Synology NAS device. Last season, it was invaluable to me for some of the VMware-based scenarios to be able to model things out in my basement and actually translate that back into a design document. So we will be spreading that prize to a contributor throughout this competition.
Excellent. Well, thank you, very much for the support. And how are things going with studying and everything? Of course, you had a great opportunity coming out of Season 2. How's the whole process and what do you have to say about folks who need to think, like a virtual design master, like a VCDX, like an NPX? What kind of things are you looking for now in looking at design that you've had a chance to sit on both sides of things?
So communication is key. Being able to clearly communicate your intentions and your ideas, and making sure that there are no assumptions that aren't clearly outlined. I know that in the past, with some of my own designs even, I made general assumptions that people knew what certain base technologies were, and that wasn't always the case. Yeah, with my journey onto VCDX, I'm on track. I'm a little behind schedule, but I'm on track. And those skills have played over into every other aspect of my life, to be honest with you. Being able to think like a VCDX level or NPX level, for that matter, it shows in your daily work, no matter what the task is. You want to be as complete and precise as possible.
And that's precisely it. We talk about the journey, and that's the word we hear often, because we understand that this is not a destination. It's simply as important that we travel the path and all the things that we learn along the way, because you can't just simply show up, take the test, and regardless of what your skill level is, there's a lot of learning along the way, and being able to do mock defenses and other great community things. That's the advantage to this community. It's we tried to promote that here with Virtual Design Master. The VExpert community is strong with this. Cisco is a strong community around their CCIE designations and other things, and of course the Nutanix group as well. They're building a great peer group capability, so that's really cool. So we have some new designs as we head in for Challenge 2. And Angela, if you want to talk quickly about Challenge 1 and sort of some of the results that we saw there, and we had some interesting numbers that came out with folks outside to talk about the importance of what we're doing here.
Yeah, a couple things I'd like to point out. One is it's great to see all the activity on Twitter. I was watching a few of the competitors reach out to past competitors. Had some people chime in saying they were willing to look over designs, help guide folks. So that's always great to see, and that's one of the key things to Virtual Design Master, is people giving back and helping each other out to move along the competition. So that's great. The other thing too is the sharing of the documents, the design documents. Great. We got a lot of good social sharing among them. I do like to highlight two of them in particular. Abdullah's has gotten the most social views, which is fantastic. And in second place is Lubomir, if I said that right. Sorry if I said it wrong, but Lubomir came in second, and he had 197 views on his design document, so that was great too. Good base to learn from. Good things for people to understand how one of these documents are put together, laid out, how do designs look in them, diagrams, etc. So good material. It's all on our website. Tonight's design docs, today's design docs will be published tonight, so folks can view those, and we encourage you to share them on social. Ping your friends, colleagues, help people look them over, and comment on them. Even comment on them yourselves. Maybe you found something that maybe the judges or other competitors didn't find or see that you'd like to comment on. Good learning tools, these design documents.
We're going to come up with a Virtual Design Master trading card set so we can actually collect them and trade them. Yeah. That'll be our next challenge. So. All right. Well, without further ado, we have coming into the second challenge. We have out of our Magic and Magnificent 7, as we chalked them up to in Challenge 1, we actually have 6 that have presented. We had some timing and effort issues, which is common when we think about the effort that's involved. So it's a testament to the work that's been done by the folks that are participating. So unfortunately, Mohammed Ibrahim was unable to continue onwards, but we have the rest of the team that's submitted, and we're gonna go through their documents right now. Also, we want to send a shout out to Brian Kirsch. Brian was unable to join us. He's traveling today and had a rather low bandwidth, so wasn't able to join for for tonight. So we'll read through his comments. We're going to start with Dennis George. So Dennis, got to say, he's a fellow Canadian. Always nice to see some Canadian folks in here. And I'll lead with Brian's note. So when out of Dennis's document, Brian said that it was a great focus on the application. However, a little less focus on what the cloud is. AWS is used kind of as a general term and very little detail on what's inside. It's nice to leverage the services for the application, but just not enough meat on the hardware or logical design. So that's some notes from Brian. Of course, Dennis will be able to reach back out to Brian in future, and we can ask any further questions. So I'll open that up now to Byron, if you want to talk about Dennis's design and what were your thoughts there.
Sorry. Oh, okay. There we go. So a few things here. First off, I'm not quite sure about trusting live support to a .NET application. That's just my own preference. It's cool. Also, a little known fact, I cut my teeth on WinFrame back in the 90s when I started off my IT career. And so it was nice to see some Citrix called out here. And that's kind of weird where I work, but no, it was good. It showed a lot of emphasis on the presentation layer, which is important because how people consume this app is just as important as how you architect it on the back end. There's a lot of thought there. I like his little load balancing setup. I thought that was well thought out. And overall, I thought the tech choice was sound, and it was a really good doc.
Excellent. So Timothy, when you looked over Dennis's, what thoughts did you have on his overall design?
Sure. Well, I definitely like the use of AWS. I'm definitely a fan of that club, but I had a little bit of an issue with the data sovereignty piece of things. Yes, your data could be stored in private data centers with direct connect links, but then those become single points of failure, even though they're going to each region. You don't want to set yourself up for a scenario where if you lose one component of your stack, you lose the entire region. That's one thing I wanted to call out there. Data can be completely safe on AWS. You can encrypt with your own keys. You can turn on MFA delete protection for S3 buckets, things like that. So I was a little curious on that piece. As far as the design itself, I thought it was well laid out. I do have to question, unlike Byron, some of the Citrix pieces. There are native Amazon services for a lot of those functions. You can do Route 53 with geo load balancing and automatic failover and things like that. I was also a little curious about why RDS was not used. I see that you are creating your own MySQL instances and replicating back and forth. It's just one of those nitpickies, but overall I thought the design was good. It was very solid, and I can tell that there was definitely a lot of thought put behind it.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. So Dennis did a great job. So let's move on, and we're going to take a look next at Stephen Billions. So Stephen, the notes that came in, let's just see. Oh, sorry. There you are. I have to find Brian's notes. He said, good information on applications and sensors, but he found it to be missing data on the cloud aspect. So Timothy, let's start with you. When you looked at Stephen's design, how did you feel it stood up?
I do have to say that I like the comment that someone with more than 2 days of Amazon experience should be implementing the final solution. Well said, sir. But also, I thought the design was good. It was very good at explaining things. However, I was a little curious as to why only one region was used, especially for the mission-critical application. For the web application, not so much. But again, I wanted to point out the lack of use of RDS. Why reinvent the wheel when there's a highly available database service available? I just wanted to see some justification to back up that design decision.
Excellent. And Byron, what did you think of the design from Stephen?
Sure. First off, Red Fog was a great name. I really enjoyed that. Going on from there, I really enjoyed the layer breakdown, or I guess he calls them levels, of the level 1, level 2, level 3 in the app design showed a lot of thought and a lot of depth that I really enjoyed. The telemetry numbers on the appendix were just a bonus. That was a nice include as well. Overall, I thought all the math looked good as far as how you would really design a system that would do life support at a very high level. I thought he really understood what he was trying to go for. And yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty solid from app design. I would agree the actual cloud implementation part was a little light, but the application stuff really, really shined.
Excellent.
Eric, if I could just add one thing, I encourage the competitors to reach back to the judges on Twitter, on social, and sort of look for clarification for any of the comments that the judges are making, because it's a great learning opportunity here for these participants. This is your chance. These guys are set aside a few weeks out of the year so they can judge the competition. So this is a great time to expand your knowledge and reach out to these guys and get as much knowledge as you can. So a little note for the participants.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's an important thing. We've because of the large group that we brought into the first challenge, we decided to move things towards much more content focused to begin with, but that's going to change very soon because of course we're heading into deeper design work. So we're going to actually bring our participants and our competitors on and give them the opportunity to meet the judges and have a little bit more back and forth, because it's going to be an important part of that progression as they learn to be able to give their own justifications and do that. But the focus that we wanted to bring in Challenge 1 and Challenge 2 is that your design should be able to speak for itself. If you're in a vendor situation, you need to be able to present a document that can effectively tell the story for you. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that on paper. It's as important as being able to defend it in person. So next up, we're going to look over James Brown. So James brought us a design, and I'm going to read Brian's comments. I knew I was going to do that eventually. Brian had notes on James's documents saying he has no cloud creation in this case other than Amazon. Now, of course, we'll give the nod to Timothy. He'll probably enjoy the fact that there's Amazon in there, but I can agree on that. Sometimes it is interesting when we kind of put all the eggs in one basket. But there's justifications you can give as to why those choices were made. He said there was no hardware in the cloud infrastructure specified, but the logical aspect of the applications was included, which is good. With that, I'm going to go to our other judges. And so looking at James's design, Byron, if we want to start with you, what did you think about James's layout?
Sure. First off, I was really hoping that we left .gov behind when we left Earth, but I guess not. That's cool. But seriously, the conceptual design I really liked. I thought it actually really embraced a conceptual design, which is something I kind of said in the first challenge. The difference between conceptual, logical, and physical, and understanding that is really important. And I thought he really nailed the conceptual part of that here. One thing I would say is kind of a critique under requirements versus constraints versus assumptions. It's always not the clearest thing what's a requirement and what's a constraint. And a couple were out of order. You want to make sure when you're going to go for something like your VCX that you really understand what that difference is. A requirement is something that your system will do. A constraint or an assumption usually falls under something you would say about it. It's kind of like a good rule of thumb. There are exceptions, but start there. Other than that, as far as the cloud design aspect, I thought his sizing as far as what instance types to use, how he called out what would be allocated where, and all seemed to fall in line reasonably well. Again, I thought that the challenge was not hardware-based, but just deploying to the cloud that already existed, so I don't really have anything negative to say about that. Other than that, pretty good. One thing, and this is not really a critique, but I'm just kind of a helpful thing. On diagrams, you want to make sure that hide your lines Just use bring to front. That'll do that real quick. Just makes things look cleaner. But no, other than that, I thought it was good.
Excellent. Yeah, great notes, and especially on diagramming. That's an important part of being able to tell the story on paper. So, Timothy, what did you think about James's design?
Well, I saw a few things I really enjoyed, specifically around the web application design. It was simple. Simple can be genius. And it was straightforward, self-healing, life is good. When it came to the mission-critical application, that's when I started to have a few extra questions. I see that you are making use of the RDS service for your database layer, which is great. But you are also using Microsoft SQL Server, which does not currently support cross-region replication. And the paragraph right below the design document, when you list out the instance type, says we will utilize cross-region replication for all the support systems. So it left me scratching my head a little bit, wondering how that was going to happen. Just need a little more detail around that layer. One other comment around security, actually. You had mentioned that you were going to use IP tables or Windows Firewall for security purposes. Within Amazon, there's two constructs, really. You have a security group that acts kind of like a stateful firewall, and you have network ACLs that you can apply to your VPC border edge. And I was wondering why those components weren't used over using the local firewalls, because the Amazon native components are centrally managed. They can be version controlled and automatically deployed. So that was my feedback there. Other than that, I mean, looks good. You did a bang-up job for not having previous Amazon experience.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks very much, Timothy. So, so a nod to James and everybody so far. Moving on to our next one, we are going to bring on, let me just see, sorry, Lubomir. Lubomir, he had some great results with his first challenge, and so let's talk about what Brian had to say on this week's design. They said the details are included about the production VMs, but there was little about the cloud infrastructure and the reference to the cloud products from VMware, but not enough detail about them. So that was Brian's note, and it is good to note that it's sometimes we can sort of dive into the details where we have familiarity, and we may leave it in other spots. Now, granted, we did push people into cloud platforms and leave it open, so those are things to think about. Is look at the consistency across the document. So Timothy, what did you have to say about Lubomir's designs?
So I was doing a little bit of fact checking around some of the calls out against Google and Amazon clouds, and I did have to question a few pieces. They definitely have a 10 gigabit option within Amazon. So I was a little curious as to where some of that information came from, but the design itself, the cloud infrastructure piece did seem to be a little bit missing. Just seemed to skirt some of the details, but I did like the detail around the application layers. Would have been nice in this document to see the use of some diagrams versus laying everything out in tables and text. But I was able to reread through it and piece it together, and it looked like a solid design.
Excellent. So Byron, what did you think of Lubomir's design?
So what it may or lacked in some formality definitely made up for in humor. I'll definitely give him that. It was a good read. Few things that he called out that I definitely wanted to touch on here. One, there's a comment. Storage seems to be the most limiting or the most troublesome technology today, especially at big scale. That is very true. Storage you kind of take for granted at your normal everyday apps, but once you start getting into terabytes and petabytes and things like that, especially on enterprise level applications, there's a real challenge there. I want to call us, if anyone wants to read it, there's a great book by John Osbald called Web Operations, kind of details flickers, problems with that, stuff like that. That's really good. And it explains if you're doing enterprise applications at scale, what you're going to run into there, especially when you're talking millions of transactions, highly functional things that need to be up all the time, like finance, things like that. Really good stuff. The other thing I want to call out here, I did. I agree with Tim. The app detail was really nice. I would like to see a little bit more again with the diagrams. That was kind of light. But okay. Otherwise, I thought technically it was pretty sound. To Tim's point about calling stuff about AWS and Google, I didn't know if that was needed in a design. That was more kind of I don't know, marketing kind of stuff. Not really, but it's not necessarily your design's not that place for it. Other than probably a brief statement as to why you did not do something as a design choice. But that's about it.
Excellent. Okay, well let's take a look at our next one. So we are going to bring up Harsh Gupta's design. So Brian had a note about Harsh's design, saying it was great to reference the hardware, but a little too focused on the open hardware platform. Very brief summary on the cloud infrastructure without the technical details, and no reference on what would be used for the storage other than the open compute platform. So Brian sort of had the feeling that it was a little bit light, and he felt that there was a strong focus on OCP, but that may leave something to be desired. And there's some real good thoughts around that. As you know, at least if we're going to choose one single package, we need to give a lot of detail and justification as to why that design choice was made. Timothy, what did you think about Harsh's design?
It had a lot of information on open hardware, and it was a really good read. But I got the gist out of reading the challenge document that the competitors were going to be asked to become tenants on a public cloud. But again, it didn't say that you couldn't build your own public cloud. So I went back and forth with that a little bit. But I looked at the applications. They did seem to be a little light on the detail side. And it left me wanting more. I wanted to know more about the implementation, more about how disaster recovery and the multi-data center thing was going to work.
Excellent. So Byron, what are your thoughts on Harsh's design?
So I kind of echo Brian here somewhat in the fact that I thought the challenge was more to deploy to the cloud, not build one. That being said, I do like OCP. I thought that's good hardware, and there's some good details about it. I did see something that I saw in its first design with VPX, although this time with vCloud Air, which is going to be ironic that I say this. It was very pro the tech choice, and there's some opinions thrown in there that you may want to be careful about. If you're presenting this to a customer or a board of some kind, that stuff just doesn't work. So I'd be very careful about that. But other than that, I thought it was good that he understood the hardware stuff. The fact that no public cloud runs on branded hardware, it's all commodity stuff. So that was nice. But I would like to see more on the outside as well.
Okay. And our final design we're going to talk about tonight is Abdullah. So Brian's notes on Abdullah's, he said that while light on the server design and hardware specs, including storage, this is one of the most complete logical designs. He covered both the infrastructure of the cloud and of the applications. So there's some good thoughts there on that one. Timothy, what did you think about Abdullah's design?
I thought it was top-notch. Had great hardware detail, very strong logical design. I love the detailed diagrams, like the security component. The only thing that I had a little bit of hesitation on was with the DR component. It looked like there was going to need to be some manual intervention there, which may be the norm for the technology choice. I'm not as familiar with the vCloud disaster recovery options. All I can speak to is my own personal experience. On Amazon, you are able to have seamless failover from region to region, and it's all fully automatic. And I kind of thought that may be a requirement for life-supporting systems, but you had the procedure and all the details there, so I give you 2 thumbs up.
Excellent. I know Melissa will proudly be digging in hard on folks for that stuff. That's the those are key requirements that she writes in the challenge, not just for fun, but those are components that you want to pick out of that design. So Melissa, when you said life-saving, you mean really life-saving, right? This is the important stuff?
This is the important stuff.
Exactly. So Byron, let's talk about Abdullah's design.
Sure. First off, great design. I thought it was well put together. A couple questions I had. First off, again, going back to constraints. Under like constraint 2 says network latency. Be more specific there. How and why and what. If you have a certain network latency that you have to deal with, specify that there, and make that clear, because that's going to sell your points later when you use that to defend a decision. Make sure that you know, because if it's 10 milliseconds versus 200, it's a large difference in your choice there. So just be more specific. Other than that, one thing I really did like here, he really understood the difference between different service levels in the cloud. And that is something that if you try to go for any kind of cloud certification or anything like that, they really, really, really hammer on. What or when do you use dedicated versus pay-go or pay on demand? That's really important, and people are going to want to know that, or know that you know that. So that was really good to see. Again, the VCAT book really, really, really stresses that. On that, I thought it was again really solid. Yeah.
Excellent. So we definitely had some very interesting designs. Again, of course, Virtual Design Master, we love that there's a humor aspect and a fun part of what we do. But underneath it all, that's the fun part of the story that gets told in these documents and designs. But when it comes down to it, it's the technical merit that ultimately we're weighing here. So that's an important piece. So when we talk about overall designs, we never want to say there's a bad design, but we see challenges in the way that some of the designs are laid out. And part of what we do is we do ask our judges to talk about key points and key areas where there needs to be more focus. So what I'm going to ask the fellows to do right now who are here, Byron, if you want to talk about who is your top design pick for this week, and who do you think needed to put a little bit more towards that?
Sure. I guess for my top pick this week was Stephen. I again thought it was really, really polished. I thought he really understood the topic at hand and really clearly conveyed things. I thought the sizing was great. Yeah, it was well done again. And as far as what needed a little work, Harsh, I think there was some lack of understanding on what was asked in the topic, and again, just a little cleaner and just stick to the facts would really bring it up.
Excellent. Thanks, Byron. So Timothy, who do you send home with your gold star this week, and who do you think needed a little bit more effort in this particular design?
Sure. Well, it's a little ironic. Byron and I were talking right before we went live that my top vote goes to a vCloud Air design, and his went to an Amazon-based design. But I give my gold star to Abdullah. I really liked his form of communication. It was precise. It was clear. I loved the diagrams. Even though there were a few nitpicks here and there, the overall design was absolutely strong. As far as the design that needs a little more work, a little more involvement, I do have to agree with Byron here and say that Harsh's design needs a little more detail, especially around the application layer. It was a clear ask in this design document, or the challenge document, that the applications had to be well architected and detailed as well, and it was just missing some areas. But I did see some promising signs there, so keep up the good work. Don't get too discouraged.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, speaking of the surface of Mars, it feels like I'm on the surface of Mars right now. You pardon if I'm half washed out. The sun is pouring in my window right now. And I'm not the only one feeling heat. At Virtual Design Master, of course, we do not pick every winter. And of course, part of the interest of what we're doing here is bringing people forward, and also we do have to make notes and tell people that they maybe aren't quite ready for this. So of course we did have two judges that had some notes on Harsh's design. So in this case, this would be the time when we would normally be telling somebody that they are not going to be able to move on to the next challenge. But it is Harsh's lucky day because we do have space moving forward. And part of the Virtual Design Master program is around bringing learning into the next steps. So Harsh, you can breathe a small sigh of relief that you're going to live to breathe life into another challenge. And that seems like the right opportunity to talk about what's coming next. So Melissa, this is the fun part of the event. As always, you really pushed these folks to some interesting limits so far. What do we have in store for them next?
Well, I said I was like up to 11 worth of evil, but I did feel like we were kind of hard on them in the first two challenges, so this is going to be my attempt to give them a little break. I don't know if anybody else is going to see it that way, but I hope so. So this challenge is going to be a little different. We're going to focus on something else. So while things on Mars have been going well, since we now have multiple options for our infrastructure, like building our own infrastructure using the public cloud, the fact remains that we are working on the colonization of a foreign planet. We all know disasters can happen after all. Mars is quite dusty. What happens if someone leaves a door open to the data center during a dust storm? What happens if intersite communications go down during a dust storm or a solar storm? We need to make sure that we're planning for every contingency. While a great deal of time and energy is being spent working on Mars right now, we can't forget our colony on the moon from last season. This is a perfect choice for disaster recovery. There is an advanced laser communications link between the moon and Mars, and it has a consistent latency of under 10 milliseconds, no matter what the time of the day is or what position the planets are in. Like on Mars, our billionaire friend is also planning on building a public cloud infrastructure on the moon. Your challenge is to come up with a disaster recovery plan for our key application on Mars. The components you need to protect are as follows. And here's where you people will either begin to love me or hate me. We shall see. You have to protect a 5-node Microsoft Exchange environment, 2 front-end servers, 3 mailbox servers. Each machine is 4 CPUs with 12 gigs of RAM. 15 web application servers running IIS and SQL locally on each instance. Each machine is 2 CPU and 8 gigs of RAM. 3 servers running a MariaDB cluster. Each machine has 1 CPU and 4 gigs of RAM. 5 file servers, each with 15 terabytes of storage. We love our cat pictures on Mars and our dog pictures and all that great stuff. Each machine has 2 CPUs and 12 gigs of RAM. 15 virtual machines running CoreOS to support Docker. Each machine has 4 CPUs and 12 gigs of RAM. And finally, 2 legacy Windows NT4 servers running IBM DB2. Each machine has 1 CPU and 4 gigs of RAM. In addition, you must define the RTO and RPO you plan on using for each application and why. Show what products you would use for this disaster recovery scenario and what processes and procedures would be used in a disaster. You may build a new infrastructure on the moon or use any public cloud infrastructure. Be sure to clearly justify the choices you are making. So there you have it. That wasn't so bad, right?
Does anyone else get scared when I hear Windows NT? I always get worried about the reboot. Does anyone else feel that way, or is it just?
How do we deal with remote reboots on Mars? There's
yeah.
We have to account for there.
I'm just glad I was a competitor last season.
Is it really that much worse this season? Do you think?
We didn't have Windows NT4 last season.
No,
This one is definitely going to be one for the books. So challengers will receive their challenges shortly. As Angelo said, we're going to post the PDF results from our Challenge 2 design. So we have 6 folks moving forwards. Those 6 have got quite an effort in front of them. But again, that's we chuckle now at those NT4 systems, but legacy is called legacy for a reason. That hangs around and bites you in the tail at some point as you move on. And of course, we've got we're getting a little bit further along, and as part of this, folks are going to get a little bit more on the reward side. Now that we've made it this far, we're going to introduce our first Flash Challenge prizes going into our next event. So everyone wants to put their best effort forward. There's not going to be any free opportunities as we head into the final challenges. So on that note, I'm going to ask everyone here to say thank you very much, and thank you to all of our supporters, to all the great sponsors and community supporters behind this. Angelo, what do you think? If you had to put NT4 out on Mars, what would you do?
Boy, that NT4 brings back so many memories. I'm seeing BDC, like it's just crazy, but fun nonetheless. So just want to stress one thing to participants, and I know I say this a lot. If you during the competition, if you have any questions, if something is not clear, don't be afraid to reach out to your co-competitors or the judges or Eric, Melissa, or myself for clarification, because we want you to succeed with all the right knowledge. So don't be shy. Reach out to us if you need something clarified, and have fun, folks.
Melissa, you've gotten to twist it up real good again here. How do you think that we're gonna be doing next week?
I think we're going to be doing okay. Yeah, the Windows NT is a little bit of a drag, but I think it's just a different method of thinking for this challenge. Now we're going to focus on something a little different after we build two infrastructures, because, if you don't have a DR plan, it's kind of useless whatever you build if you can't protect it and you can't account for disasters. So just kind of maybe like the natural progression of the competition, and I think our challengers will hopefully enjoy it, maybe, or they're probably already cursing me out. Who knows?
I think they'll be happy when they get through it. That's for sure. Byron, here we are. You lived through the protection challenge last year, and Timothy as well. So Byron, what do you think? Are we going to see some fun stuff going into this one?
Well, I'll be giving bonus points for anyone who can do replication over no modem cables. That would be awesome. But I'm really interested in seeing what guys come up with the Core OS stuff, and containers really throw a whole new thing into the mix as far as your DR, I guess, if you want to call that, plan is being immutable. And so I'm curious how they're going to handle that.
Timothy, we've got a good variety here. Now, we were kind and we didn't fire in some OpenStack stuff, but that leaves the door open for much in the future. What do you think about the protection challenge this year?
It's very entertaining. I just did the math. I think I was 8 years old when Windows NT came out. So we're definitely taking the best of the old days and mixing it with the best of the new days. Docker, Core OS are taking off like wildfire. So it'll be good to see what the competitors can do.
Talk about spanning generations. This is how we go. All right. Well, for all the team at Virtual Design Master, we want to thank you for watching this week. For folks that are watching online after the fact, thank you for your continued support. Good luck to all the participants, and we will see you all at our next Judgment Day. See you next week.